Decided to get help on when my wife called the paramedics, and I was taken to the hospital at emergency room, and I had thrown up twice of blood, and when I got there after going through the procedure, they told me that I had thrown up 3 pints of blood, and they told me that number one, I didn't have any alcohol in my blood. And I said, well, I don't understand that because I just threw up, I just drank that day. And they said they had good news. I wasn't diabetic and I didn't have cancer. But I did have I had a liver problem, which I still have. I've got cirrhosis. I'm on a list for a liver transplant, but I'm way down on the bottom of the list because I'm not in that bad of a condition. And plus, my age, I think, has to do with it. And when I threw up all the blood during the day, I'd never seen so much blood. It was thick, red, dark red, and it scared me. Then I went to bed, and then I got up to go to the bathroom. I was dizzy. I laid back down on the bed, and my wife woke me up and told me there was blood all over the bed. She called the paramedics. Then they took me to the hospital, and it scared me. Well, at the time I threw up blood, I didn't know I had a problem with alcohol because I drank all my life. I didn't think drinking to me when I grew up was just a way of life.
Right.
I drank for almost 60 years. All right, I decided to get help when the doctor that treated me at the hospital told me if I ever drank again, that it would kill me. I decided to get help when the doctor told me that if I drank again, it would kill me. And I realized that after being in a war and they couldn't kill me, that I wasn't going to let alcohol kill me. And the only way I could get to stop the alcohol from killing me is to quit drinking it, but I knew I couldn't quit by myself. So I decided to get treatment after talking to my wife and my 2 girls. They told me I needed help. And I thought about it for a couple of days while I was in the hospital, and I decided to get some type of treatment. I selected Thelma. Why did I select Thelma? I selected Thelma because one of my daughters has a master's degree in psychology, and she works for a nonprofit that treats women for abuse, that are alcohol or physical abuse. And she's a counselor for them, and she told me that one of her co-workers recommended Thelma because they said that Thelma was the best around for treatment for addictions, and I have an addiction of alcohol. So I took her advice. I selected Thelma because I have a daughter that has a master's degree in psychology, and she works for a nonprofit. And one of her co-workers suggested Thelma because she said that Thelma was the best around in Southern California for treatment for addictions. I selected Thelma because I have a daughter that has a master's degree in psychology, and she works for a nonprofit, and one of her co-workers said that Thelma was the best in the South Bay for addiction, rehabilitation for addiction, and I have addiction of alcohol. And so I decided to contact Thelma, my wife and I did, and that's how I got started. I selected Thelma because I have a daughter that has a master's degree in psychology, and she works for a nonprofit, and one of her co-workers told her that Thelma was the best in the South Bay for rehab for addictions, and I have an alcoholic addiction. Well, for myself, I wasn't afraid of treatment, but I knew I needed some type of help, and if you're having an addiction, you need somebody that can help you with that problem, and I don't know of anybody that has an addiction problem, whether it's alcohol or drugs, that doesn't need help. And being afraid of it just makes it even worse for the individual to try and get help and accept help. I would say that being afraid of treatment is something that comes along with addiction, whether it's drugs or alcohol. And being afraid, you need help when it comes to addiction because you can't do it by yourself. I couldn't do it by myself, and I knew that. I wasn't afraid to go to Thelma, but I knew I had to go to Thelma because I had an addiction for alcohol because I drank every day. I mean, I'm talking every day since I was 15 years old until I was 73. So I knew that I had an addiction for alcohol, and I never had a fear of it, but if you have a fear of it, that's part of addiction, is fear. And if you can get rid of that fear, you could possibly get rid of your addiction. What made me decide to get help? Well, I went into the hospital after throwing up blood at home, and when I got to the hospital and I got through the treatment at the hospital in an emergency, they told me that I had thrown up 3 pints of blood. When I threw up the blood, it scared me because I'd never seen so much blood come out of one person's mouth. And then I also threw up another time while I woke up to go to the bathroom and I felt dizzy. I laid back down on the bed. My wife woke me up and told me that there was blood all over the bed. And then I went to the bathroom and I threw up again. And when I got to, they told me at the hospital that I had thrown up 3 pints of blood, and they told me that I had a liver problem, of cirrhosis, and that I had no alcohol in my body, in my blood. I didn't understand that because I had just drank that day before, and then the doctor told me that I didn't have cancer and I wasn't diabetic, which was good. However, she told me that if I ever drank again, it would kill me, and I wasn't going to die from alcohol. They couldn't kill me in the Army, in the service when I was in war. Alcohol's not going to kill me. Why did I select Thelma? Well, my wife and 2 daughters told me that I had a problem while I was in the hospital, and that I needed help, and I needed treatment for my addiction of alcohol. I thought about it, and then my one daughter, which has a master's degree in psychology, she works with a nonprofit group, and one of her coworkers told her that Thelma was the best in the South Bay for addiction rehab. So my wife and I contacted Thelma, and I got in a 9-month program, which I've completed, and it's helped me a lot.